Hello and welcome, Rattler fans, to another episode of Coleman's Corner. I'm your host, Matt Comuzzie, joined as always by Executive Director of Athletics, Rob Coleman.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Of course. So we're heading into the winter break now with a lot to look back on, so let's dive right into it.
All right, let's do it.
I wanted to start kind of briefly on golf and tennis's fall seasons. So, the men's golf team looks pretty ready for another deep run. They got their guys back, making some noise in the fall.
Yep.
The women's team seems to have retooled pretty nicely here after losing some big pieces last year. And a similar story for the tennis teams. Women's tennis also is looking pretty prepped for a strong spring season. They've added in some new pieces as well. And the men's team is looking ready to take their next step now. So, with a small sample size, what have you seen from these teams in the fall seasons?
Yeah, kind of exactly what you just said. Men's golf ranked 8th in the country after the fall, and, an experienced team, battle-tested going to nationals last year, and we look for great things for them, quite honestly. They have everyone back, and if they can just stay together and stay injury-free, and, we probably should have a really, really good spring season with the guys, quite honestly. As you mentioned about the women's golf program, lost some really, huge key pieces, but finished the fall ranked 15th in the country. And, the new players have seemed to acclimate well with the returning players. And I think the more they're just together, hopefully the better it's going to be. I think they just, finished their last tournament in 3rd place. So again, excited for them that we got through that piece. And I think for both programs, and K-pop for the guys, 2-time player of the week. So really, really excited for the golf program. They both, if they can just stay together and just keep grinding, I think they both can have some really, really nice seasons and probably, hopefully, they'll be regional kind of teams for us. As far as tennis is concerned, I'll just take the men first. Really excited for the guys. Bill's got some couple new players coming also for spring, and I think we've really created some great competition on that team. We've had numerous talks about how we can get the guys up there to kind of match what the women have done in previous years, and it hasn't been without trying, and I think this is going to be a pretty deep team, and just depending upon where everybody else is in the conference, we should be better as a team, and hopefully that will catapult us into maybe the top 4 in our conference. And then the ladies, like you said, just had, tremendous success over, the last 8 years. And we lost a key piece, when Madeline got injured, a transfer from DBU. So she'll be out this year, but I still think we've got a pretty darn good roster there. And, both the golf programs and tennis, they've been leading our spring, for many years now, and I think it should continue. So the small sample sizes, I think we're in a really good spot for the spring, and that's not even counting what we think baseball and softball can do, right? And so, we're once the sun pops back out here, and in February, March, I think we can have a really, really nice spring with all 6 of those teams, and then throw Stunt in there, coming off a couple national appearances, and spring is set up to be really, really good for us.
Yeah, hopefully some really exciting stuff to come here in the spring. Now I want to take us all the way back now to a soccer season this fall. So we'll start with the men. Unfortunately, a bit of a disappointing season when you compare it to last year. We're regular season co-champions, make it all the way to the LSC finals.
Yeah.
They finished this year with a 3-8-6 overall record and missed the postseason. But, this kind of stuff happens from time to time in this industry. Sometimes the season doesn't work out how you want it to. But, how do you think they bounce back next season?
Well, I guess in Johnny's career here, it looks like, we either win the regular season one year and then, we maybe not have the best year the following year. And I do think that we will bounce back. It was disappointing. It wasn't really a rebuilding year for us. We had some really good key pieces. We didn't take advantage of that. And I also think, Johnny and I have had some really good talks after the season. I think we're committed to get more physical as a team, kind of get a little bigger with some of the recruits that we're going after. When you see some of the teams this year, the physicality of, what DBU played with us, where Midwestern is as they're in the Final Four right now. We've got to just become even a more physical type team. And so, he's on the case. not being in the playoffs, he's a very motivated individual. So is Denny, his assistant, and they're getting after it. I would be very surprised if we're not, back where, we've been comfortable being. But also, Matt, we added a great program like UT Dallas into the conference. I think we need to accept those challenges, right? It's been Midwestern in us for a period of time. West Texas was in that. And now it's different, quite honestly. UT Dallas is in the conference. They're going to be really, really strong for many, many years. UT Tyler got much better. And we've got to answer the call, quite honestly. So, we've got some good returning players. Well, we certainly have to add some key pieces in the recruiting, this fall into the spring. And then I do believe, we'll be back. But, yeah, disappointing, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, now on to the other side, the women's team. Another solid season from them. They finished with a 9-6-3 overall record, get all the way to losing overtime in the LSC quarterfinals. But, they get a breakout season, really impressive season from newcomer Atlanta Cussler. Cussler earns herself onto the LSC first team. She gets newcomer of the year, forward of the year, and an all-region first team. Shelby Paniagua with another great season, all LSC first team and all-region first team. And then one moment I want to just kind of focus on for a second, Sydney Varela gets in, scores on senior day. She gets medically retired throughout the season. Yeah. Comes into senior day, gets cleared to start as a bit of a formality. The script says that they'll kick it off as soon as the ball goes out of bounds, and she's coming back out. Doesn't really happen like that. No. Ball stays in, they get an open shot right at the net, comes right to her. She scores. Just a really special moment for the team I wanted to touch on. Yeah, happy for Sid, obviously. She gave her heart and soul, and her body kind of broke down, unfortunately, here late in her career. But to get that goal, you could just see how excited she was that happened, and it was a great moment for the team as well. Yeah, really awesome. But this team always seems to be right there in the postseason. How do they take that next step when it comes to regional play now? Yeah, Matt, look, we finished the year like 8-1-2, and it's all about consistency through the whole season. We got off to a really rough start, and it hurt us. When you have two first-team all-region players and you don't get into regionals, it kind of says again the strength of our conference in women's soccer. Again, another the women's soccer program for UT Dallas is really, really good as well, and we've got to answer the call. It's really just that simple. Can we take how we finished, come back with that next year, and start off and have a real consistent year through the whole year? You can't go 1-5 and then 8-1-2 and think it's going to work out. If you have three or more losses, you're probably not going to make it. So again, Kevin's recruiting out there. We're adding some pieces. We had a pretty young team too. When you think about it, it was really freshman, sophomore laden kind of team. We're going to see where it goes. But I certainly have the talent. Elena will be back. We'll see what happens with the 5-year type rule at the NCAA convention. And, possibly we'll have Shelby back as well. But if not, Kevin obviously understands recruiting's where it's at, and we've just got to keep getting better. But the other part of it, exciting thing, Matt, is, 5 years now in a row with Kevin, winning record. You have to go back to like 94 through 99, where our women's soccer program had 5 straight winning seasons. And it just says a lot of since I've been here for 8 years, soccer was not good at all here. And the work that Johnny and Kevin have put in to move our soccer program to where it is today, is a credit. It's not even just soccer; it's our whole program. But they've elevated soccer here in San Antonio, and super excited for them and kind of where we can go futuristically. Absolutely. So now looking at our indoor fall team, volleyball, and what I think is one of the more surprising seasons of the year so far. I mean, they put together a really strong resume after an interesting start. So your head coach takes a new job before the season starts. And then your interim head coach, who was the assistant coach, ends up leaving a few weeks in, which then leaves Callie Nims in charge now, fresh off of graduation, came in as an assistant, and now she's manning the ship. And I think a lot of people would say, expectations maybe drop a little bit, just steady the ship, keep things afloat, and see what we can do. But she then leads the team to a 15-13 overall record, 12-5 in the Lone Star Conference. They make it to the Lone Star Conference quarterfinals and finish number 9th in the final South Central Regional ranking. Lorraine Robinson also puts up a good year. gets all LSC honorable mention. Landry Withers, all LSC first team. And then a heck of a year by Alyssa Kale. Gets all LSC first team, all LSC Libero of the year, all region first team, and all region Libero of the year. So my question is, how proud are you of the job Callie ended up doing with this team? And then what's next for St. Mary's volleyball?
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't an ideal start by any stretch, right? I mean, Laura had done a really, really nice job here, built the program up to, where it was, for the beginning of this year. And then, Callie stepping in, she did an amazing job, quite honestly. If you could give, if we were ranking 10 out of 10, she gets a 10, right? I mean, she calmed the team down. We got off to a rough start with the win-loss record, battled back when she got here. We put her in a tough spot, honestly, and she wasn't prepared really to become an interim head coach. But she did a wonderful job with getting uncomfortable, so to speak. And then the team played really well. I think they played relaxed. Super proud of them to come, our highest finish ever in the Lone Star with volleyball. Landry had a great year. Alyssa had a tremendous season, and she deserves everything when it comes to the 2,000 digs, and Landry had the 1,000 kills, and just a credit. In the world of the portal, a credit to those ladies to stay together for 4 years. I just can't say enough. I thank them for being committed to St. Mary's and elevating the program. And like I said, Laura did a great job recruiting them. And again, we thank Callie. Callie was a big part of those years, right? Elevating the program, not only now as a player, but now as a coach. And then, we're in kind of the final stages of our search right now. We've got some wonderful candidates to become the head coach here. And Callie, probably will not be our head coach, but certainly we'd like her to continue to be on our staff. She still has a lot of room, to grow, to become, a permanent head coach, especially in the world of recruiting and things of that nature. But would love for her to still be part of the program. So we're going to work actively on that to kind of make that happen, but excited about the candidates we have, and hopefully by the month of January we'll have someone named to be our new head coach.
Yep, great fall seasons here, wrapped up now. So now looking into this winter seasons, just getting underway now. We're about a couple weeks in, and both men's and women's basketball teams off to a phenomenal start, both sitting at 7-0. And a really interesting little detail, if you look through the box scores, it seems like there's a different leading scorer for both teams almost every single night. But I want to start with the women's basketball team. Now, with their win against Sul Ross State, they claim a new program record for the best start to a season. It was previously 6-0, held by the 97-98 team, broken now against Sul Ross, sitting at 7-0. The returners, who they actually have a lot of this year, which is awesome, are producing really well. And Kristen Callens, Rain Malik, Imani Ivory, Kezia Bertoni, all of them. And they've gotten some good boosts from their newcomers, Ina Menu, Ali Garcia, all of them. And as of recently now, receiving votes in the national polls. Then on the men's side, real high expectations after last season's, making the tournament, but some questions still remained after losing some significant pieces like Lachlan Boffinger and Franklin Agu. But they also off to an undefeated start, 2 wins away from setting a new program record themselves to start the season, which is 8-0, also held by the 97-98 team, but getting some solid production from their newcomers as well, Justin Britt, JJ Walton, all these guys coming in, really making an impact. Now, most recently, ranked in the top 10, up to number 7 in the country in NCAA Division II. Some big tests still remain, but, what do you think both teams need to do to sustain this success throughout the season?
Well, Matt, I could just tell you, man, the season's really early. We're only 7 games in. We need to play 28 in the regular season, and I just think we just need to be where our feet are, and that is play game to game. The really good thing, couple things on that front, right? I mean, as far as the ladies are concerned, I think Val, Liz, Francis being a part of it for a couple of years have done a really nice job recruiting, bringing in the pieces. We've talked a lot about spreading the floor, becoming a better shooting basketball team. I think that's the difference maker for us. I think we play really, really good defense. I think both our men and the women play really good defense, and it's intentional. I think that's part of the culture that both of those programs are built around. And I think that's what wins in the Lone Star Conference. It's not just us being ranked, but there's multiple teams, and the men and the women, who are ranked in the top 25. It goes to say, this is a basketball league. I mean, I know we got football, and it's good football, but basketball is tremendous. And so, playing defense, to me, just keeps you in games, and I think both teams have formed their culture around that. But to go back to Val, we had some years where, we didn't cut corners, we didn't sell our soul to just jump in the portal and try to get good. We've been recruiting and developing and trying to retain our student athletes, and this is the fruit of that labor right now, right? And so we've got a great group. They seem to like each other, playing hard for one another. Like you said, you've got to be just about the team, right? When someone else scores, 15 points, you need to be happy for them, right? And that's kind of what we are right now. We don't really care who's scoring or who's blocking shots or who's getting rebounds, but it's just all about trying to get a W at the end of the day. And so first 7 games, awesome. The next 7 games, schedule gets, harder, no doubt about it, as we get in the conference for both the men and the women. And and the guys, the ladies broke the record for most wins to start of the year. The guys are ranked 7th in the country. But like I said, it's early. We're eventually going to lose games. It's just going to happen. Very difficult to stay undefeated. And then I think the really good teams, Matt, go on the road and get wins. That's really shows you kind of what team is. If you could go on the road in the Lone Star and get victories, then you kind of got something, right? And so we'll see. We both go on the road. The guys are on the road here Thursday. Tough test at DBU, and then the ladies go up to Texas Women's next week, and we'll see kind of where we're at, because it's about to begin, right? I mean, the season started, but it really gets going here, next week.
Absolutely. Real exciting stuff coming out of basketball. Make sure to come out and support. Free entry for students, faculty, and staff, so come out and make some noise. So as we close out now, I just want to give you the opportunity to maybe speak on any future projects or big developments upcoming here on the horizon for St. Mary's Athletics.
Well, again, Matt, middle of the year, it's tough to do some, major things. But, we have some new score tables coming in. We're going to be, we just recently did the men's and women's basketball locker room. So we're finishing up the volleyball locker room as well here in January. So that will be redone with new lockers, new floor, new wraps, that type of thing. So, excited for that piece. We've got some padding work going out on baseball and softball before their season gets going. And then, again, what I'm most proud about is, again, how we are doing academically. We just got the NCAA numbers for academic success rate. The average academic success rate for Division II was 77%, and we went up another percentage to 87%, with 4 teams having 100% academic success rate, and we had 3 other teams with between a 90 to 99. So again, super proud of the good work we're doing, not just athletically, but academically, and that's really what I think sets our school apart compared to others in our conference. It's high-end academics and high-end athletics, and it makes St. Mary's a really, really special place. So proud of the individuals our coaches are bringing in, and then really helping them prepare for life after sport. So our community service has been outstanding. Our academics is going really, really well, and the athletic piece. And like we mentioned earlier, hopefully for a great spring. We're having a pretty good winter right now. Had a nice fall, and hopefully the year will go great from here.
Awesome. Well, that is all we have for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time right here on Coleman's Corner.